to the Golden Hour. I am Golden Duffy, your host for the next hour. I'm going to get you jazzed up. I'm going to get you excited. We're talking about getting out of the mundane of life. I've got some really fun stuff to share that's been going on in our lives, but also to help light a fuel, to light a fire within your own life where you just stop living the mundane. You stop living the Groundhog's Day and you start getting out of that little comfort zone of yours to create a life that is full, to create a life that is fun, to create a life that is exciting. So I got some fun stories to share, but first I just want to really address, the questions like, how do you live more excitement? What would it take for you to live a little more freedom? What do you need to let go of to create a life that feels more like yours, more like you can make decisions that are based on your joy versus the obligations that you are serving? So many times we get kind of stuck because we do things that we believe we have to do. We stay in relationships because we believe we have to, because there's a lot of reasons. Like we're afraid of being alone. We're afraid of making waves. We're afraid of change. We're afraid of loss. And because we have all these fears, right? What is fear? False evidence appearing real. We create our lives around fear. I'm afraid that'll happen. I'm afraid this will happen. I don't want to do that because of fear. And the problem with creating a life from fear is what we resist persists. So what we're trying to avoid, we're actually inviting in. That's how the law of attraction works, because it works with your feelings, not just your thoughts. That's why positive thinking doesn't always work. It's the feelings underneath that are actually creating. So knowing this, how do we start to clean that up? How do we start cleaning our lives up so that we can start living more excitement, more freedom, more joy, and all of that stuff? And in the idea of universal law of attraction, we have this, let's just go back. We're going to go back to the basics and the state and the mood and what actually is creating in your life, because I always think it's a really good idea to remind ourselves. And I want to share how the process of this is unfolding in my life and creating so much more goodness, so much more love, so much more freedom, so much more fun. And a lot of it comes with letting go of the things that are not working for you, really getting in touch with your feelings. So I think I shared with you guys that I started an acting class. So freaking fun and totally out of my comfort zone. And do I want to become an actress? I have no idea. But I want to hone my craft. I want to get better on camera. I want to get better in life in general. Like taking an acting class, you do a lot of things that make you look at your internal being and what the way that you're responding to people, the way you're reacting, and what people are reading from you, right? We have partners and they're reading stuff about us. So it makes us realize what we really have going on underneath. And my last acting class, my acting partner said, "You're deflecting." And I took that word deflecting to heart. And I was like, how often am I deflecting in my life? Oh, it's okay. It's okay. I'm okay. It's okay. It's all right. And giving people passes and staying in relationships that aren't working. Like, how often do we do that? And how often do we tolerate and not have boundaries with people because we're afraid of making waves? We're afraid of hurting people. Like, we're so concerned with hurting other people that we put ourselves in positions of suffering. Like, we're making ourselves suffer so that other people don't have to suffer. It's like putting other people's things above our own. And I've had a few realizations, and I'm going to go into the stories of how all these things unfolded. But the biggest thing that I would love for you to take from this show is the fact that no matter what is going on in your life, if you can get to the underlying feelings about your life and you can start working on those and processing those, you will become the most powerful creator. Because understanding like what we have going on underneath in our wounds and our triggers and all of that, that is what is conducting the energy field. Because in universal law, it's not necessarily our thoughts that create, it's the emotions underneath the thoughts. So we can say, I'm trying to be positive and I'm trying to be okay with that person. And the whole word trying just, it blows me away, because it's like, if you're trying, you're inviting room for failure. If you're trying, you're not doing. If you're trying, you're not deciding, right? Trying is very split energy. You're in a very split energy field when you're trying, because you're not married to it. You haven't decided. You don't have, here we go, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. You don't have a definiteness of purpose when you're trying. And because of that, the universe can't meet you with really strong activation of energy in your favor, in what you really want. So, in that element of your state, your mood, your emotions, in every area of your life, ask yourself, what is that energy you're conducting from? When it comes to my finances, am I living in a lot of fear? Am I doing things to avoid spending money because I'm afraid of spending money? Am I constricting? Am I holding? Am I spending too much? Am I trying to spend myself into abundance? And so I walk around with anxiety all the time, just spending money because I'm trying to just cover up the way I really feel about life. I've been there. Shoo. The first time that we actually started to really make money, my husband's business really took off. This was like in the beginning of the 2000s. We hit it big. We got a lot of amazing clients. People were flipping houses. There was a lot of money coming in, but there was a lot of money going out. And we never had financial peace. He was always anxious. I was always anxious. I was spending money like crazy. I was feeling guilty about spending money. Our lives were really big. We had a really big home. We had 4 children to take care of. So there was the feeling underneath the money was anxious because we didn't know how to manage it. And maybe we had that fear underneath it that it wasn't going to last, because it didn't. And once it went, it was so frightening and so scary, probably the scariest thing we ever went through in our life, facing home foreclosure and bankruptcy. And so funny, we actually went to a family wedding, and I'm going to share about that in just a minute, but we actually saw our bankruptcy attorney there. And it was, you're going to think this is crazy, but it was so much fun to see him and to show him how well we did after all that went down, because he saw us at the worst time in our life. We were so down. We were we were not defeated, but it all felt just really scary. And he gave us some great advice about holding on to our home for longer and all. So it was wonderful to see him and to say, wow, like we're thriving. And the bankruptcy and the house foreclosure all enabled us to become free so that we could actually sell everything we own and move across the country to California, which is what we love. And we're so happy. So we were back in Connecticut last week. It was a total spontaneous trip. And that is what has inspired this show. So I'm going to share the story with you. And I actually am working on a video to share the whole experience because it was so freaking fun. It was one of the funnest things that we ever did, my husband and I, and one of the greatest surprises we ever pulled off. So my goddaughter, Fiona, was getting married, and she made the decision to get married pretty quick. They'd been together for a long time, and they got engaged and decided they were going to get married in just a couple of months. So I saw her in May, and I told her that I wouldn't miss it. I really felt strongly that I wanted to be there. She's my goddaughter. We were extremely close to her dad and her mom, and her dad died when she was 2. So we felt like, she lost her dad. I really want to be there for her. But then as I talked to my husband about it, he has a lot going on, a lot of work going on. And we started to look at it, and it's a Thursday afternoon wedding, and we just started to feel like it wasn't going to work out in our schedules. And then our younger 2 expressed interest because she's their cousin, and it kind of unfolded that they ended up being able to go. So I was like, okay, our little ones will represent, and our oldest is in Connecticut. So all 3 of them will go and they'll represent for us. And the whole time I'm like, kind of like, ooh, I wish I could go, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And it doesn't make sense in my husband's schedule. So last week I got a message, a picture from Fiona's godfather. So he's the godfather, I'm the godmother. And him and I were really close back then. Really supported her mom. So this is her mom's brother. Really supported her during the losing of her husband. I mean, it was just tragic. He was 31 years old. He was killed in a car accident, and it was absolutely one of the biggest tragedies of our life. He was an incredibly bright light. His wake was 7 hours long. Like, that's how many people came to see him. And I stood by his wife's side the whole time. We helped her. She had 3 kids under the age of 5. I mean, it was really, really hard. So in that, he sends me a picture when she went during her christening, and we're both standing there next to her, and pictures of her when she was a baby. And it just pulled at my heartstrings so hard. And I said to my husband, I texted him and I said, would it be crazy to surprise everyone? And this is like 4 days beforehand. So he just jumps on it. My husband is amazing and so wonderful, and it worked out in his work schedule. He wasn't sure if he was going to be able to do this, but timing wise, he was starting a new project and he had some demo work to leave his guys with. So it worked out that he could leave projects and still be creating work while he was gone. So he gets on right away. He starts booking flights, and my little ones now don't know anything. We're not telling anyone anything. We're going to surprise everyone. So I'm like, I had to go out. I had to buy a new suitcase because they're using all of our suitcases. I had to hide the suitcase. I had to pack in hiding, dropped them off at Orange County Airport, booked it home, grabbed our suitcases, and booked it to LAX. So at the same time, we're both flying to Connecticut. And we land within 10 minutes of each other. So there was like a lot of craziness, a lot of fun. We're in hats and hoods in the airport because we don't want them. Now, Bradley International Airport at midnight is a ghost town. So if they're gonna see us. If we walk by them, they're gonna see us. So we are literally just like waiting for our bags, and we're nervous, and they're getting off the plane. And then my daughter's coming to pick them up. I don't want her to drive by us. So we make it out just in time. Whew. End up telling them that we hired a limo driver to pick them up to take them to the wedding. And we were the limo driver. So it was hysterical. And once you see the video, I'll have it up on my YouTube, hopefully by next week. It's been a little challenging to upload and get the video set, but I want you to see the whole video and our excitement and how the whole thing played out, because it was so awesome. And it was such an awesome time for our family. Our kids were so surprised, and they were so happy that we were there. And everyone, I mean, including I called Fiona, the bride, on the way to the airport because I didn't want to totally surprise her in the middle of her wedding. But I sat there at her wedding and I thought, I can't imagine not being a part of this. It's so amazing and beautiful. And yes, we had to have the money to be able to go, but it was really interesting because we've been doing some stuff with our credit cards and getting miles. So the flights were free. We found an Airbnb for $100 a night. I mean, we did it really efficiently. But if we had told ourselves that we didn't want to spend the money, this is the thing about that, you guys. When you do stuff like that and you constrict because of money, you don't create more money. You don't create abundance. The love, the joy, the fun that we experienced in Connecticut created other things for us when we got back and on our way back. So that's one of the biggest lessons that I hope to hand over to you today is the more fun and love and joy you can create in your life, the more abundance you will create, because money is an energy. I did my show, I think was it last week? I don't know. Time is like one of these things right now. Last week I did my show with Katrina Starr. Check that one out. It was all about the energy of money and your relationship with money, but how abundance and love and joy is the highest vibration you can have. And when you're in a high vibration, you are truly living your worthiness. And when you live your worthiness and you trust in your worthiness, the universe is going to deliver you more. So, as much as, yes, we had to kind of have the money to go, it all worked out so well that I feel like that money has already come back. In fact, interestingly, when I was kind of going over this in my head today in all the different things that played out energetically, and when I tell you that we had a beautiful time, like we reconnected with people. I recently forgave and let go of some things in our family. And recently, I think I shared with you guys, like back in May, I went back to Connecticut with my high school friend, the love of my life girlfriend, and we went through all our old towns. And I got a new appreciation for Connecticut because I think in order to leave Connecticut, I had to really hate it. Like to do what we did, I had to be in that really low vibe with the place. And it took me a while to get back to loving it again. And I do love it. I love the country. It's very different from here. The weather wasn't so great. The wedding was beautiful, thank goodness. And I know her dad had something to do with this amazing 73-degree sunshiny day. I mean, she just was the most beautiful bride and the weather was gorgeous. But after that, it pretty much rained the whole time. So weather-wise, I was very happy to get back to my sunny California. So in the realization of letting all this stuff go and loving the place that I grew up in once again, and not being afraid of bumping into people, that's something else that's been new for me is when like relationships end or there's people that I don't necessarily want to see, it's trusting, here we go, trusting the universe that the people that come into your path, if you bump into people, you were meant to see them. Vibrationally, you're in the same plane, and to embrace those experiences. So that has changed my whole vibe to the point where I didn't really bump into anybody there, which is great because I don't need to, right? And I got to see people that I grew up with. So I had this friend from elementary school. We were friends forever, just like, not best friends, but we were friends, and we liked each other and we laughed a lot and we had a good time together. And then when I got married, she became my husband's cousin's cousin. So we ended up becoming family. So we would see each other at family events all the time. And I haven't seen her in 12 years. And she came to this family dinner that we had on Saturday night, and we took out old pictures, and oh my goodness, it was so heart-filling, so wonderful. And then on Sunday, we actually had some time. Actually, on Saturday during the day, so cool. We got to help my daughter. My daughter is doing barnwood furniture. She is incredible. Find her on Instagram. She's Jade the Carpentress on Instagram. I'm going to have her on the show, I promise. But she is taking down old barns and recreating this incredible furniture, mantles and things. So she had a show in the middle of this little town square in Litchfield, and we got to spend the day with her, helping her sell her stuff. It was so fun, and I'm so proud of her. And it was so awesome to see her furniture in person, because I always have to see it from like Instagram. So that was like an added bonus. And then on Sunday we had time, so I visited one of my like dearest friends from high school. I got to visit her at her cute little home on the lake. Got to meet one of her awesome friends. And that was like so heart filling to be able to do that. And then we went and visited a family friend of my husband who he actually lived with when he was in high school, this wonderful, wonderful woman. So we got to visit their family, and it was just, our hearts were so full, so full. So we get to the airport on Sunday, and my bag is over 2 pounds. The lady's like, no problem. She puts it through, doesn't charge me any extra, doesn't make me take anything out of my bag. I didn't know that they had the ability to do that. Then we get on the plane, we have dinner, we have a glass of wine, we get some headphones. Nobody charges us for anything. It was just one thing. And then we weren't sitting together, and the back row was totally open. So we got the whole back row to ourselves and got to sit together and watch movies. And it was just a trip that was so much fun. But it would have never happened if we didn't follow our hearts, if we didn't follow our intuition and our excitement. So that's one of the biggest things of creating a life that you love, creating a life of fulfillment and freedom and joy is following your excitement. What is the next exciting thing that we could do? And thinking about going back home and going to this family wedding and seeing my goddaughter get married was so thrilling. In fact, I didn't sleep for like 3 or 4 days. The night of the wedding, I actually slept better than I've slept in like a while because the excitement finally had died down a little bit. And we pulled it off. We totally pulled it off. And our kids were incredibly surprised. And when you see the video, you'll see the amount of joy that we all felt in those moments. Now, my younger girls live with us. They see us all the time. They had just left the day before. And the amount of excitement and thrill that they felt for us being there was off the charts. And what a bonding experience for our family. So I will say, live your life with more excitement, with more joy, and more freedom, and you will start to experience abundance on a whole new level. And you will start to experience the flow of the universe at a whole different level. One of the books that I put out is Mindful Manifestation Secrets, and that book will show you the exact process of law of attraction. It also shares the story of us leaving Connecticut and moving to California and all the crazy things that happened to us along the way. But that's a great guidebook to how manifestation works. It's super short. It's 85 pages. It's a quick read, but it's one of these books that can help you to kind of connect the dots, because I think there's a lot of confusion in law of attraction. I think there's a lot of confusion in manifestation. And I think what can happen over time is we kind of get stuck. We can get stuck in the wanting of things, right? So we want things and we want things and we sit there in the lack of them because we put them way out here into the future. And then we sit there and we wonder why it's not manifesting yet. And the biggest thing that I see with people not manifesting what they want is A, they haven't decided, right? They're trying. I'm trying to manifest. There's not a strong enough decision. B, they don't have enough clarity. So clarity around what you want is what drives the bus towards it, knowing really clear. And I've said this before, a lot of times that clarity comes on knowing what you don't want. So clarity is huge. Then activation is the third part of it that becomes really necessary. What can I do right now to activate the energy on that? That's what this acting class is a lot about. It's activating energy. So, recently I've gone through some stuff where I'm feeling like I got to get out of the house because I'm here a lot. I'm doing the shows a lot. I'm taking care of my family still, and I'm feeling like I need people. So I started networking. I started activating energy in my field, and you never know where that's going to go. That's the thing about activation is, okay, I'm feeling inspired. So I had a friend who told me that she was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful friend who told me she was doing an acting class. And I started thinking about it and I was like, is that something I want to do? And she started sharing a little bit about it. And I was like, that kind of sounds up my alley. And I've had other people tell me that I should do voiceover stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is all like part of that. It's all part of the same thing that I'm doing in activating, like understanding perception. And there's so many different layered things to acting that go along with real life, right? Like how often do we act in real life? Like doing this surprise thing. Oh man, did I put my acting skills to practice? The girls were like, you gave nothing away. I mean, I would talk to my daughter and I'd be like, oh, I wish I could go. I'm having so much FOMO. You guys are going to have so much fun. I mean, really played it up. They had no suspicion whatsoever. So that was really cool that I was able to apply something. Now, I've only taken one class, but I was able to apply something that as I get better at it, could unfold other things in the play, the life play that I am creating. Plus, being in an acting class is you're with a group of people, right? I wanted more people in my life. And who knows where it's going to lead? I say that all the time. Who knows where it's going to lead? So as you get ideas about something, and we get a lot of ideas, let me tell you, I get a lot of ideas. And the belief is you're ADHD if you can't focus. But the truth is, if you get ideas and you ask yourself, is this in my highest excitement? Then you follow that trail. So the acting class, I was like, ooh, okay, it's at night. I don't like going out at night. I don't like leaving my husband at night. Honestly, he works all day. I don't like going out at night. I could have come up with a lot of excuses. It's a little bit further away than I like to drive. Like, it's not where I like to drive. There was a lot of things I could have said. It's way out of my comfort zone. I think it was $500. Like, it wasn't that expensive. It costs money. I'm not really going to make money from it. So there were a lot of things that I could have said, a lot of excuses that I could have put in the way. But instead, I looked at it and I said, this is the next this is getting me excited. Like, you may filter it as fear, you may call it fear, and that may actually cause you to not do things that your heart is calling you to, or that is the next logical step in your plan of manifestation, right? I don't know where this baby's going to lead, but I know it's going to lead somewhere, because as we are in relationships with people, as we do more with people, as we connect with people, we raise our vibe. We raise our vibe. Connection is everything. That family connection, that friend connection, that love connection, that compatibility connection, that is one of the greatest things that we do in this life to create more love, to create more experiences, to create more fun, right? So in that, taking an acting class gives me all of that. It gives me the community. It gives me support. It gives me connection and collaboration. So I'm working on some other things right now. Originally, I thought it was going to be something else, and that thing kind of fell apart. Really interesting how that happens. That's the other piece of this that I want to share is, as things either work out or don't work out, sometimes the universe will take things, and this is the thing about being triggered, about having wounds, and about not healing your wounds. As the universe does this and things don't work out, you can either feel wounded from them, right? Friendships and relationships and whatever it is, jobs, you lose a job, you get fired, whatever it is. If you get wounded, if you feel wounded, if you get triggered, if you have abandonment issues, abandonment issues used to be all day long. I know that I'm healing from those things because I've had a couple of things end recently, pretty big things end recently, and I'm not feeling the wound. I'm not feeling hurt from it. I'm not taking it personally. When you do that, you are in a vibration that allows better things to come more quickly. So how did I get to that point? I've shared before, journaling. I have this book right here, Mindful Manifestation Secrets Daily Guide and Journal. You can get this on Amazon along with my other book, Mindful Manifestation Secrets. This is a great book to kind of open up that healing process and what you can do to journal and to get in touch with what are these triggers and what am I learning and how am I healing, and to stop responding in the same way. Because if we respond in the same way, we're going to create the same things over and over again. Remember, the vibration underneath is what's creating. So as we get triggered, as we get angry, as we get frustrated, as we feel hurt, those are the things that are being called to heal in us. But if we keep the cycle going in our unawareness or our resistance to look at that stuff, we keep ourselves in victim mentality. And that victim mentality is what keeps us stuck in cycles of poverty, of lack of love, of lack of relationships, and not allowing life to show us how worthy we are. So the healing process is the biggest thing to manifestation, because if you got all this stuff going on underneath and you're pushing it down with food and drugs and alcohol and shopping, you're never going to get to what am I actually creating from. And the acting class is so interesting because these people pick up, they are observing you and they pick up on what you have going on underneath. It's like there's no hiding. There's no hiding when it comes to this. So it helps you to realize what you have going on and what you need to do to clean that up. So that's pretty cool. All right. I have not actually stuck to any of my notes today, which is hilarious. All right. So the element of spontaneity, surprise, and creating a life that is more exciting and fulfilling. So let's say you go to work every day, right? You got the same job, you see the same people, you do the same thing day in and day out. You're feeling mundane, or you're a stay-at-home mom. Every day you wake up, you get the kids ready for school, they leave for school, you clean the house. That ground, and believe me, I've been there. Recently, I've been there. What I started to realize was, first of all, we have opportunities in every day to shake things up. This is what this show is all about today, is to shake you up. To shake you up out of your mundane, everyday thoughts, right? We have what, 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. I think it's 60,000. Somebody said 70, but I originally heard 60,000. So 60,000 thoughts a day that are mostly rooted in neural pathways and habits of thought, which means that every day you basically have the same thoughts. And because every day you basically have the same thoughts, you basically create the same stuff, can't swear on this show, every day, right? So if you want things to change, you're the one that needs to change. The way you're thinking needs to change. The way you're operating needs to change. The way you're feeling needs to change. How do you do that? You know, I'm going to say meditating. You know, I'm going to say that. I have our M21 group on Facebook. Awesome group. We have a 21-day challenge at the top of the page. You can just commit to it and every day do the meditation. What that does is it's going to give you space. It's going to give you clarity. It's going to give you the ability to not be in your habits of thought. You're going to have a moment. You're going to have a space and you're going to go, do I need to think that? My favorite book on that subject is The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Amazing book about the fact that we are not our thoughts. And the fact that in every moment, we have the ability to let thoughts evoke emotions, which evoke energy. We always have a decision in that. Now, if you're super triggered and you've never worked on your stuff before, you don't feel like you're in control. You're not in control, quite honestly. So in order to gain that control, in order to gain that power over the universe, to gain that power over the partnership you have with the universe to create, you're not going to be more powerful than the universe. But the thing is, you are an expression of it. So you're creating with it. And in order to do that, you cannot be a victim to your mind, to those around you, to the circumstances. You cannot be a victim because that mentality is what actually creates. So I had an interesting thing happen with a couple of my daughters. And one thing that I realized, they weren't getting along and letting me know. And I was listening to it. And finally, I just decided and figured out they're only doing this because I'm allowing it. And so once I started to put up my boundaries, the whole energy shifted and they started to get along. So whatever you're tolerating from people and you're saying, it's okay, right? You're deflecting. It's okay. Oh, that person did that to me, but it's okay because I do have fun with them. You have to start looking at these things and you have to recognize that anytime you're staying in relationships with people or in jobs or in circumstances, there is a detriment that is happening when you are deflecting, when you are not paying attention to your feelings, when you are allowing yourself to suffer to help everybody else, there is a huge detriment and you don't even know it. And you are a victim in that because you're allowing it to take place. So in order to really take the power back in your life, it's looking at your relationships and saying, first of all, is there any joy left in this? And is that joy worth it? Is there enough of exchange of energy? Or am I just doing something because it's in my comfort zone? Because they invited me to go out? Because I do it all the time? Because if I don't do it, it's going to create drama, or I'm going to hurt people, or there's going to be conflict. So many of us have been taught to avoid conflict, especially if you were in a toxic family or a family that didn't know how to communicate and they swept everything under the rug. If you were in situations like that, realize, like, it's really thinking about your life story and the things that you've experienced. Understand, especially if you have lived a lot of trauma, like if you moved around a lot, or if you had a family that broke up, divorce, if you had a lot of death or a lot of tragedy, or there wasn't security in your home, you didn't feel safe in your home, there was abuse, any of that stuff has created, it's created a disruption in your nervous system. When you have a disruption, I have a really good example to this. When you have a disruption in your nervous system, you will be more likely to react and to not have control over your reaction. That's why it's important to get to the wounds, to find out what you need to heal. Recently, we have had, I know I shared that we have a ton of spiders, right? And my husband thinks it's hysterical to put plastic spiders all over the place. And he's been doing this since last Halloween. So I should be used to it, right? Like, I should be way used to it. And I am, totally. But now with this new onslaught of spiders, they're everywhere, seriously everywhere. My nervous system got a little jacked up. It got a little triggered. I got a little PTSD when it comes to spiders, right? So yesterday he put a plastic spider on top of my coffee maker and I saw it and I was like, that's funny. And then an hour later, it scared me. And I was like, what the heck? But it's the nervous system, right? It's that energy of the nervous system that we are being called to look at, to heal something, to calm something down. So I watched a really cool show on the plane, and it was Rainn Wilson from The Office. And he has a new show out, Bliss something. I don't know. Google it. I don't know the whole name of it. But maybe it's Finding Bliss. He's going around so he has struggled with anxiety, depression. He became famous. He's got lots of money and he still is having issues. Like, he cannot figure out how to be happy. So he started this documentary where he goes to places that are known to be happy. And the first place he goes is Iceland. This is such a cool thing. He goes to Iceland and he's noticing what they do. They have a lot of community. One thing they do, and these people, I think they do it 3 days a week, is they go into the very cold ocean, very cold water. And they do a couple of breathing exercises. And what they do is now, anytime you can jump into a body of water, an ocean, a lake, a pond, whatever, it's alchemy, because basically you're changing your state, especially if it's cold. So we've been doing this in California. We've been jumping in the ocean. I haven't done it in a couple of weeks, but the last time I did it, it was so cold and I made myself stand there for 15 minutes and I thought I had hypothermia. Like, it was intense. I don't know how people do these ice bath things, but this is why they do it, because it's alchemy. So this is what it does. It gets you out of your head. It changes your state, gets you into your body and out of your head. And anytime you can get out of your head, that's what meditation is all about. Clearing the mind, being in the body, being present with the breath. Anytime you can do that, you will shift things because you are not in the mundane of the thoughts, those 60,000 thoughts. And then your life will begin to change. You will feel different, so you will create different. My friend shared with me today that they actually use like sour gummies to help people with panic attacks, because that sour feeling will get you out of your head. So anything you can do like that. So in life, they took that. Now you should watch the show because there's a lot more to it than this, but this is what I took from it that I thought was so cool. The alchemy piece. and then the community piece, because you're going in together. And they showed Rain in the water and how much joy he felt. It was freezing. Now they have hats on and they have boots on, and they don't get their face wet, but they go into like their torsos, which I'm all about jumping in and getting my head in, because that's where I really get that endorphin rush. It teaches you that you can do hard things. So in life, when you apply that, like, we're always trying to avoid hard things, right? We want life to be easy. We want life to flow. We don't want to be bothered. We don't want to change things because we like to stay safe and we like to stay the same. And that, my friends, is the biggest bunch of BS there is, because that's what keeps you stuck in cycles. That's what keeps you from creating new things. That's what keeps you in a life that feels like nothing good is happening. That's what leads to depression. That's what leads to anxiety, because you're in your head too much and you're not creating enough. When we are creating, when we are in that element of creating where you kind of lose all time, right? This happens to me when I'm creating programs, when I'm creating meditations, when I'm just creating group programs, whenever I'm doing stuff like that, slideshows, whatever, I lose time. When I'm writing my books, I lose time, because you are in the energy of activation and you are getting the flow. So some people call it channeling. Often people are not comfortable with that term, but basically that's what you're doing. You are opening yourself up to the creative flow of the universe, which is partnership and collaboration, where things will come through you that you can't, like, you're like, whoa, that wasn't me. That's what happens on my Facebook posts every day. If you're not friends with me on Facebook, look up Goldyn Duffy or Live Life Goldyn on Instagram. I put up a post just about every day that is inspired through me opening my creative juices, opening up my creative energy. So practice that. Some people call it automatic writing, when you just sit down and you start writing and all these surprising things come out. It's a good way to dump. It's a good way to like get all your energy out before you meditate. That's a really good idea. Just write. It's really, I used to do like lists. Like I would write all my lists, because usually what your mind does is it works on the to-do list. So if you're like, oh, I already wrote that down. I know I'm going to get to it because I wrote it down. You don't have to think about it when you're trying to meditate, when you're deciding to meditate. Not trying. There's no trying. That's why people fail at meditation, because they're like, oh, I tried that. It's like, meditation is not trying. Meditation is doing. Meditation is practicing. And it's about gaining the strength of that muscle, gaining the space, creating the space so that you can create the bliss. Because that quiet, that where there is nothing, that zero state awareness that we call it in quantum physics, is where everything is created from. It's like a clean slate for your tablet of life. It clears the slate, and then you get to decide how your day is going to go. You get to decide which thoughts and energies and feelings you're going to pick up on. You become less and less of a victim the more you put yourself in that meditative state. It's amazing. Okay. All right. Where are we going from here? You know, I was thinking a lot about the surprise and the hoops that we jumped through to surprise our kids. And it would have been so, now, first of all, we're a surprisey family. We really like to surprise each other. We do. It's really fun to surprise people. So we've done a lot of this. I remember when my granddaughter was born, we were having her first birthday party in Arizona, and my oldest child was going camping with her husband, and they had already had it set and they weren't going to be able to make it. And my daughter, the mom of my grandbaby, was crushed. Like she was really having a hard time with the fact that her sister was going to miss her baby's first birthday. And such is life, right? So we're going to bed that night. Birthday party's the next day. We had rented an Airbnb. And my oldest daughter and her husband, all of a sudden there's a knock on the door. It's like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And we're like, what the heck? Like, we're all in our PJs. We like jump out of bed. and it's my daughter and her husband. And it was such a great surprise. So we end up wrapping her up like a present. And when my daughter got there with my granddaughter, she was she was sobbing, just sobbing that her sister made it, drove through the day to get to her, to do this for her. And it's love, it's connection, it's really like we matter to each other. So surprises are a wonderful way to activate energy in your life and to create wonderful experiences. So think about that. Now, the surprise was a lot. It was a lot for us to maneuver. We could have at any moment said, this is too much trouble. But the excitement that we felt, right? That next exciting thing made it so worth it. And now this is something that our family will talk about forever because it was so hilarious. So, what kind of surprises can you create? What kind of joy can you create in your life for you and the people you live with? Like, how creative can you become in manifesting cool stories with each other and manifesting out of the mundane? So you go to work all day, you work the same job, you got the monotony going on, right? What can you do differently? What can you do differently? Can you drive a different way to work? You would be surprised what happens when you take a different way to work. You have no idea. Can you act on your intuition more? When you have an intuition to stop somewhere or to do something for someone, can you act on that more? Because the thing is, it's out of the comfort zone. It's out of the mundane. It's out of the usual things that we do. And it's so freaking easy to push it aside, to say, nah, I'm not going to do that today. Nah, I'm not going to call that person. Nah, I'm not going to go see that person. But when you do and you act on those little intuitions, you create miracles in people's lives. People will be like, you had no clue what they needed, but you were exactly what they needed because the universe is co-creating. It's in a collaboration. So it's hearing their calls and it's giving you the promptings to actually act from this place of creating. So what can you do? How can you listen more intently? How can you act more in favor of creating more excitement? What is the most, I've had days where I'm like, not in a great place because I'm like by myself all day and I'm like, what is my highest excitement next? Like, what am I supposed to do? And sometimes I'll just get out of the house because that's really a good idea. Going in nature is always a really good idea. If you can get up every day and go for a walk in nature, let me tell you, it's one of the greatest, next to jumping in the water, that is one of the greatest ways to change energy and to create endorphins in your body. Paying attention to nature, the birds, the trees. We went hiking in Connecticut at Topsmead, a place I've never been before, which is crazy because I grew up there. I thought I had gone everywhere. And we stayed at a little Airbnb right near this hiking place and went with our girls. It was so amazing. I was like, it was breathtaking how beautiful it is. It's kind of almost fall there, so things are starting to change. And everything is so lush because of the amount of rain they get, which is way more than I can handle. But it was just beautiful. And it was like a gorgeous kind of fallish day. Get out in nature. What else can you do that is in your highest excitement? If you want to write a book, sit down and write a paragraph and watch what happens. Every day, just write a paragraph and watch what happens. Because eventually you're going to sit there and you're going to go, oh my gosh, I've got 3 pages written. I like to commit to 3 pages a day because that really gives you some meat. That really gives you a big amount of writing in a very small time. One of my favorite books about creating and writing, just the creative energy in general, is The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Once I read that book, I wrote my book within a week because I realized the resistance we have in creating. So there's a couple reasons for that. We have a fear of being seen. We have a fear of being wrong. We have a fear of looking stupid. We have all these fears, right? And we don't want to live from these fears. We want to overcome these fears. And how do we overcome these fears? We do the things. We do the things that are out of our comfort zone. So writing is a huge thing. creating a business, working on a website, creating a YouTube channel. I tell people all the time, when it comes to stuff like podcasting or YouTube channels or anything like that, the biggest thing is just doing it. It really is just doing it, because you're going to figure it out along the way, and letting yourself feel that anxiety and then doing it anyway. And with a YouTube channel or podcasting, you really could just record for a little while and not publish them if you're in that much fear, and then process your fear and start. Once you like pull that trigger and you start getting them out, it becomes second nature, and then it's not hard anymore, and you're not anxious anymore, and it becomes a flow that it gets easier and easier. Whenever you're about to learn something new, there's a time, okay? There's a space. So you're here and you don't know how to do this, right? So you got this space in between, right? If you could, instead of getting anxious and being worried about screwing up and being worried that you're not going to do it right and being worried that you're going to look stupid, if you could, in that space instead, get really excited about the grid filling in, about you figuring it out and being on the other side of it, if you can take yourself there, visualize yourself there, see yourself. Like if you're taking an acting class and you're super anxious about it, see yourself doing well in it. See yourself laughing. See yourself comfortable. See yourself doing more. You would actually have an easier time of getting from here to here. It would be faster and it would be easier. You wouldn't be so hard on yourself, because you're allowing yourself to be in the energy of, I'm going to figure this out. I just don't know right now, but I'm going to know because I'm committed, because I decided to learn it. When I first started doing this TV show, I had a ton of anxiety. The first couple weeks were really intense. I had to figure out a lot of things, a lot of things. And I was texting people and I was anxious, and a couple times I screwed things up, and it was no big deal. And now it's like, it's so easy for me. It's like second nature. So there's just a gap. There's just a gap. So if you can convince yourself when you're about to learn something new, not to run and hide, right? Not to say, forget it, this is too hard, but instead be excited about the journey, because the journey is the expansion. The journey is the growth, and the journey is what's going to teach you more about yourself, more about the world, and more about this really cool collaboration that we're doing. Collaboration with the universe, collaboration with other people. You're going to see opportunities show up. So many good things happen when you start doing this, because what you're doing is you're starting the engine. You're starting the engine. We had a funny thing happen, last story, I promise, in Connecticut. So there was someone that we wanted to stop and see. He's been a really good friend for a long time. He sends us cards all the time. And he was very instrumental in us moving, because we ended up doing some jobs for him. We did some jobs for his father-in-law. And we were driving by his house one night, and my husband said to me, it would be really cool to stop and see him. And I was like, well, if it works out, it works out. I don't want to force anything. So the next morning we wake up, we're in one town, and I decide that I want to go to this other town for breakfast. And it's kind of in the opposite direction of what we're doing, but we had time. I really wanted a donut. I know I say do not all the time, but there is like 2 donuts that I will eat in life. Cider donuts, which I got to have from this apple farm that my daughters brought me. And the other place is Dottie's Diner. They home make their donuts. But every time I go, they're out of them, including this trip. But it's okay, because I say I do not eat them. So it's service from the universe. So we start driving to this other town, and we drive by this guy's house. Again, we did it the night before that day. And as we drive by, him and his whole family are in the driveway. Like, it was so wild. So we like turn around, whip into the driveway, and it was so fun, because we really felt like we manifested it, because we had set it up the night before that it would be cool to see him. And here he is in his driveway. He has a gate. He had opened the gate because his wife was leaving, and she stopped because she saw us pull in, and we got to hug his whole family and got to reconnect, and it was amazing. So you just never know. You follow your highest excitement, you follow your intuition, and you will create a super cool life, a life that gives you more and more and more to be grateful for, a life that feels full, that feels exciting, that feels that feels like you're creating it, because you are. All right, you guys, that's my show for today. Peace out. I love you all. See you soon.